and its floppy drive can end up being correct here in this pick. I'm going to send it on over to Marshall and Paul with the call here in round number 50.
Thank you, Maria. It never gets old over there. Marshall Cyclone here with Paul Giat in the booth. And as they set up at the news desk, we are down the stretch here. Things starting to get really interesting with regards to top 8. As we mentioned, Javier Dominguez having hit that magical 12. He's through, and he will be in our top 8 regardless of the outcome of any of these matches. But a lot to be decided in the feature match area this round. We've got our main match that we just described is a straight-up winning in for top 8. Karl Sarap versus André Judd. The winner of this will be in our top 8. So everything on the line for these two players. And let's just focus in on that here as we head into game number 1. Karl Sarap, playing for Team Handshake, which has been the dominant team, not only just of late, but this tournament too. Oh, he didn't. That wasn't a handshake. That was Team Fist Bump. What a traitor!
I mean, they are completely crushing it this tournament. We saw the standings: first, second, third, fourth.
Yes, literally the top 4 players in the standings coming into this round are all on Handshake. Incredible. At any rate, one of the decks that came out of Team Handshake here is in the hands of Karl Sarap, and it is Rakdos Midrange. On the other side, though, is Esper Legends, a deck that wasn't nearly as popular as that Rakdos Shell, but still held a healthy place in the metagame here. Yeah, and André, one of the few Esper Legends decks remaining here, trying to fight through the sealed, the sea rather, of Rakdos Midrange, and has made it this far. André, of course, also the one with probably the best draft deck I've ever seen in any Pro Tour. That was at least the most incredible sequence of plays, and probably just the best deck. Yeah. I feel like if he had that deck against Karl Sarap, he might have a chance here in Standard. Ooh, just get that Elishnorn out there. Yeah, let's see what happens. But no 2-drop here from André. Yeah, the curve stumble can be really punishing for this deck. Let's see if he has a 3. I don't know. He's going to play a 2-drop on turn 3? Maybe he's just got a removal spell. Yeah, it does have a Rafine, but might be considering just running out a Thalia here instead. Thalia.
Take 1.
But it does look like he's just going to use up all of his mana and play Rafine instead. And little extra variation in André's list, playing both Shieldreds. You see a Shieldred, the Apocalypse, and just Shieldred. Right? Yeah. The 5-mana legendary creature, 4 or 5 minutes, enters the battlefield, makes you sacrifice a creature or planeswalker. And then, of course, you can flip it if your opponent has 8 cards in graveyard. So, then the fun really starts. Right. So, kind of that 5-mana slot historically has been taken up by AO. Right, that's kind of been the 5-mana creature of choice, but it looks like André opting to go for Shieldred there instead. A little bit more proactive of a card than AO, gets you that value straight away, where AO kind of needs to be killed. Oh, Liliana of the Veil from Karl Sarap, though, exactly what André does not want to see. That is a clean way to get rid of Rafine. Right. And look at just the permanent advantage that Karl has here, right? I don't know. I mean, does André come back from that? It's really hard for a deck like Esper Legends to kind of come back, catch up from behind. They're the ones who kind of want to curve out 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Keep up some channel lands and keep their opponent on the back feet. But in a situation like this, I mean, look at just everything that Karl has access to here. He has multiple creatures in play. We have the Fable, we have a Liliana, we have a Treasure. I mean, there's an Invoke Despair, a Go for the Throat in hand for Karl. He's got everything. This is not going to end well for André Judd. These stumbles have not paid dividends. And man, that Liliana of the Veil, just perfect right there for the Rafine. Rafine's so difficult to get off the battlefield. But Liliana, just right there. And this must be kind of a... Liliana, not typically a card you see in the Rakdos mid-range decks. It's just a one-of, but really, really great in this scenario. And there's Go for the Throat. Got to pay an extra mana, but
Mana well spent for Sarap. You know,
you get the mana back here, right? Because now you get to attack with the Goblin token.
I feel like if they ever get to attack with Goblin twice, it's like that's it.
Right. You just get so far ahead on mana here.
Right. And they have so much to do with their mana. I mean, a clear board at this juncture of the game from Karl Sarap's side.
And I wonder if Karl is debating whether or not to tick up the Liliana. Karl's hand is fantastic. However, if you do tick up the Liliana, you know that it's going to be able to kill a relevant creature on André's side. He's got nothing in play right now. Maybe discard a Bankbuster here? Oh, no, Trespasser. Okay.
He got a Shieldred out of hand over there. Now he's going to play the Bankbuster and just pass the turn back. But boy, Karl just using up all of the mana.
Right.
Super efficient. And it looks like we're going to see Shieldred, period.
Yeah, I mean, Shieldred, period. Make you sack something. But now Karl can just, if he can, no, he doesn't need to find a mana source. He can just play Invoke Despair. Kill the Shieldred, draw 2 cards, deal 4 damage, right? Or just activate the Liliana.
Could just also cash in Liliana. So many options here. That's a Duress getting discarded to Liliana of the Veil.
Invoke Despair. Oh.
And André Judd can only just say, yeah, you got it. I think if you're sitting in André's seat at this point, you're kind of thinking, okay, I'm going to just right in the chin, right? Like the full uppercut, get it out of your system. We still got two games to play. Yeah. It can't be like this the whole time, right?
Right, absolutely.
Because this is just unrelenting. I mean, André has not had his footing at any point during the course of this game.
Yeah. I mean, this was just a Fable game, right? It's just a classic, hey, I had Fable the Mirror Breaker. I was able to kill a couple of the creatures that you had, and then I used the extra mana that I was able to generate to just take over the game.
Yeah, the Liliana, devastating here. Fable just running unchecked.
André running out the Shieldred into the Liliana that's on 3, right?
Yeah, it's basically just like a trigger.
Yeah. Oh, is this an upkeep go for the throw?
He even has the answer anyway. Yeah, come on.
Okay.
Just keep punching me. It's fine. I can take it.
A loss is a loss.
Is that it? Is that all you got? You know?
Are we ticking this up?
Feels like a boxing movie.
Yeah. Oh, and you can get that back because there's 4 non-basics on
more. Is that it?
Side. And now you can crew the Bankbuster, get in for 6, get a treasure. André down to 1.
Judd's tough. He can take it. Is that it?
I think that's it, Marshall.
Game 2.
Yeah. And Judd finally gets to stem the bleeding here. Get his cut team on him in the corner, get that sideboard up, have a glass of water, and let's see if he can't have a little bit better of an outing. One thing to note here as well is that André will be on the play, and that is right where he wants to be, although once again, a little off curve. Now, if he can go 2-drop, 3-drop, we might see that change, though you do see the swamp from Sarap.
Only has a 2-drop there in Rona. Oh, was able to find the Shattered Sanctum, though. Does have that.
Does Arona die immediately?
Absolutely. Got to use that mana when you can.
Cut down.
Has multiple other removal spells in hand here.
Man, Cut down's done a lot of work this weekend.
Likely going to just go jam the Bankbuster here, as if André untaps him, just play something like a Thalia. Just wouldn't even be able to cast that Go for the Throat.
Mm-hmm. So Bankbuster go now from Sarap. Land number 3. And that is Thalia. Go.
Can't play the Fable this turn.
So he's just going to have to end up drawing a card off of the Bankbuster back over to André, who needs to even things up.
Most likely going to want to just use Go for the Throat here, right? Get Thalia off the battlefield. Then next turn you can go Harvester plus Go for the Throat, or Go for the Throat, draw a card off the Bankbuster. Lots of different options. All you want to do is just kind of survive that initial onslaught, right? that initial curve from the Esper Legends deck. If you can do that with cutdowns and all your removal spells, then your late game is far superior to whatever the Esper Legends deck can do.
An attack for 2 with the first striking Thalia. Okay.
Okay.
2-drop, 2-drop, 4-drop. That'll work for André. Go for the throat, though. Now found an even better target than Thalia, Guardian Thraven, and it's going to be Shieldred making a very quick appearance on the board.
Is this a Shieldred? Oh,
this
no.
This is a full
4-mana
price
Fable.
Fable, yep.
Probably the appropriate cost for Fable, to be honest.
Indeed.
So. But this is a moment where André will be able to get an attack in with the Raffine, right?
Yes.
You get to play the Raffine, you get a loot here, maybe you can find an interactive spell.
Discard a redundant copy of Thalia. Take 3 down to 15.
And Karl really is incentivized to try to find a way.
Ooh, and a Skrell follow-up.
Yeah, so now you have to kill this Raffine before André untaps, right? Because now you have Skrell plus Plaza of Heroes in play.
Makes it almost impossible to get Raffine off the battlefield at that point.
So if Karl can rummage here and try to find an extra removal spell on top of the Go for the Throat, that would be great. Probably an easy discard here of the Transmogrant.
And a land.
Yeah.
Looking for Sulphurous Springs and Invoke Despair.
Now, cannot cast it.
Can't cast it, right?
Right, because of the Thalia. Now, if you really wanted to, you can attack with the token, generate a treasure, then play your land, then cast Invoke Despair. But if you do, it's okay, but you're only really just making André sacrifice a Skrell, right? And then you're still going to take a lot of damage from the Thalia plus the Raffine. I think more likely you're going to see a Go for the Throat plus Blood Tithe Harvester, right? Go for the Throat on the Raffine.
Harvester is the easy play.
Yeah. Oh, is this perhaps a crew and attack?
Attack with both.
Oh, attack with both. Trigger.
This is a clean attack with both, although the Raffine could jump in front, although it doesn't get the chance to anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the sequencing there didn't matter too much. You were going to kill that Raffine anyways.
Right.
Okay, take 6.
André did remember the trigger for Ward, forcing Karl to sacrifice the treasure.
All right, so this is a nice opportunity here for André. To try to find something. There is a Kaito Shizuki, but given that Karl has enough ways to just attack into the Kaito, of course the Kaito can't protect itself the turn that it comes in.
Little disappearing act.
Yeah. Just ninja things.
Yep. André needs some action, though. This one does feel like it's just starting to slip away. Kaito Shizuki is a nice way to get back. Almost certainly just going to draw a card here. Every land drop counts. Thalia does affect André a bit too, as we saw here. Now we're going to see the phase out. And Karl says, I know I can't attack it.
And Karl just very close here, right? Ahead on board.
Really does feel that way.
You have a reflection of Kiki Jiki with that Blood Tithe Harvester. An incredible combination. If it does not get disrupted next turn. Oh, and in Invoke Despair, you get the Kaito, you get the Skrell. I mean, how can
you don't get the Kaito, though, right?
Is it exiled right now? It looks like.
Well, I think it's phased out, right?
Is it phased out? Okay, if it's phased out, then you just draw 2 cards and you kill the Skrell.
Exactly.
Yeah. And at this point, I mean, you can just kind of outrace André, right?
Right. The Kaito might even be ignorable at this point.
You can just get in for 6 here. Crew the Bankbuster, attack for 6, make a treasure. It's just.
You mentioned André's
and there's a Go for the Throat.
Not that good at coming back.
Right.
Well, this is a convincing victory here for Karl Sarap if he's able to pull this off. I mean, game 1 was an absolute landslide.
Right. And look at this. Sacrificing a treasure to deal 2 extra points of damage, right?
11 success. Yep.
Getting André down to 6.
setting up potential lethal attack next turn. Okay, Kaito comes back. Boy, team handshake.
So dominant.
Killing it.
So dominant. Karl Sarap, very close to picking up another top finish here. Of course, top 4'd the World Championship in Las Vegas.
Top 8 the new Capenna Championship. By the way, André Judd, this is his Pro Tour debut. Like, he's at the big table playing with the big kids here and on the verge of a top 8 his first time at the PT. Now, this looks like Sarap will be able to finish the job and secure his slot, but remember, we have another round to go.
Right. Andre's not out of it.
No, he has a chance to play for top 8 next round.
Yeah. Got 2 shots at it. And we're still going to try to figure out the tiebreaker situation, but it's also just not clear that a draw will get you into the top 8.
There were an unusual amount of draws this time around, and that could affect how that goes. And look at this. Everybody comes in, and Karl Sarap is going to secure another top 8 for himself and for his team handshake. And you can see why they're called that. Everybody's always offering them handshakes all over the place. And I got to say again, that was convincing, Paul. That was not close.
Yeah. I mean, I think the matchup's supposed to be a little bit closer, but of course it just depends on how things line up. But I think just if decks are prepared to beat this Esper Legends deck, you can beat it, right? Not only do you have access to all the cutdowns, which is a very oppressive removal spell in the format, you also get access to potentially Lithomantic Barrage, which is another great card in this matchup. But I mean, just team handshake, 2 members in the top 8, Karl Sarap even intentionally drawing with Nathan Steuer is like, look, we can draw. Right, we're so good. We want both of us to not eliminate ourselves from top 8 contention. And Nathan Steuer also just in fantastic shape here. So, I mean, just what a dominating run so far.
Yeah, we could see 3-4 players in the top 8 just from that one team. That would be absolutely incredible. Let's head over to Maria at the news desk to help us set up our next match.
Another winning, and up next, Nathan Steuer versus Simon Nielsen.
This is once again a team handshake mirror on Rakdos mid-range. Both players playing very similar lists, and it is going to all come down to the early game hits of Reckoner Bankbuster and Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Whichever player does get those draws is going to be in a great position to take this one between the 2 teammates.
Steuer Nielsen is coming up next. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to coverage here at Pro Tour, a March of the Machine. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. We're bringing you coverage of Standard with just a couple of rounds to go in the tournament. We are in the place where we're now filling out top 8 seats, Paul. A lot of win-and-ins in the feature match area this round. We just saw one with Karl Sarap winning his seat in the top 8 for Team Handshake. Now the next feature match we have, both players from Team Handshake and both of them playing for their top 8 seed as well. So we're going to get another handshaker in there, minimum, whoever comes away with this one. Getting a little interesting with the records, Paul. You see they both have 11 wins, but you remember back to the draft round 3 of draft today, that Nathan Steuer and Karl Sarap sat down and took an intentional draw against each other, attempting to give themselves a better chance to both make top 8 rather than only one of them.
Yeah.
Right now, draws, there's been kind of a lot of draws in the field, and they're looking bad. Like, you do not want to draw on your record, and that will be ratcheting up the pressure on Steuer here, because if there's too many of them, a draw is equivalent to a loss.
Yeah, I think their thinking was probably either this was a really good play for us, or we're not going to look that smart. And in this instance, where there's a lot of other unintentional draws that happen, and there's just this huge scrum at the top, if it's in fact the case that 11-4-1 does not make top 8, that draw was as good as a loss.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of pressure on Steuer, but of course his teammate Simon Nielsen's feeling the same pressure. Absolutely. As the winner of this will secure yet another top 8. And I mean, honestly, if Steuer can do that, that is just unbelievable. Now, it is worth noting that we do have another round to play after this as well. So this is what we call just a straight win and in, but this is not an elimination match either.
Yeah, and you're just going to see a lot of these players. We've seen this matchup plenty of times already. Of course, Javier Dominguez defeating Nathan Steuer in the previous round to lock up the first slot into the top 8 in the exact mirror.
Go.
Lots of trading happening here. Resources are going to be flying back and forth across the table as we join this match in game 3. As you see, Simon Nielsen is on the play. He lost a rather lengthy game number 2. And he did have to mulligan this game as well, Paul.
He did. Did find a transmogrant to put into the graveyard. Gives you a little bit of that late game value. But I mean, we just kind of saw how these games play out. If you're both able to deal with kind of that early fable, a lot of it just comes down to the big cards, right? How many invokes did you draw? How many Chandras did you draw? How many of them together did you draw? And I think that's probably just the big card that we want to talk about. I think coming in, there was a lot of hype around the Reanimator strategies and all these other ways to kind of go over the top. But all you needed to do was just add 2 copies of Chandra to the stock Rakdos midrange deck, and that's more than enough to go over the top of anybody not playing Chandras.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, just been so impressive.
It was like they went bigger with Reanimator, and then they were like more Reanimator with the Channel Fireball deck, and it looks like you didn't need any of it.
Right.
Chandra was all you needed.
She just does everything, right? She protects herself, draws you cards, and if you don't kill her, you can just die on the following turn.
Finishes the game. You know, you and I are having a chat in between rounds here, and we were reminded of Elspeth, old Elspeth, 6-mana Elspeth.
Theros Elspeth.
Yeah. The kind of card that sort of is a jack of all trades. It comes down and solves the problems that you have regardless of what they are.
Exactly.
14 plays 18.
This is an unanswered Shieldred, though, here from Simon Nielsen. Lots of triggers, lots of damage. Nathan down to 14 now, facing off a Shieldred. And is digging.
Ooh, is this Desperation Blood time? That's going to be another Shieldred trigger.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Simon's like, I'm ready. Draw that card.
Look at him.
No missed triggers here.
This trigger is not being missed by Simon Nielsen.
I don't care how long you think about what to discard, you will be taking 2 damage here.
Steuer is taking his time. Ooh, Fable going in the bin. Trigger down to 12.
18 for me, yes.
This better be good.
Another Fable, probably?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. That's the only time you see somebody discard. They just got more Fables in their hand.
That's true.
All right, but Simon with the advantage here, with that Shieldred in play.
Still on the battlefield.
First person to also be able to get to 5 mana here, right? Hasn't played a land. That's when you can start deploying Invoke Despairs as well. And then you start you start becoming that Rakdos burn deck that they kind of jokingly talk about.
Yes.
But it just happens a lot.
It does, man. Being on the play here for Simon Nielsen, because they've had similar draws. And there it is. Ooh. Invoke Despair after curving right into Shieldred. First one to 5 mana. First one to flip a Fable. First one was Shieldred.
Yeah. Simon had it all with this mulligan here. Now Nathan's going to have to sacrifice the creature, the Fable, doing the one that's on 1 so that he has an extra blocker here next turn. But Nathan's going to go down to...
yes, so you go to... so you go
to take 2.
Yeah, Simon's going to gain life here as well and get an attack in for 4.
I'll attack you for 4, down to 6.
Down to 6, Simon Nielsen. You can feel this. You can hear it in his voice. Land go. This could be it for Nathan Steuer. He needs something very impressive.
He needs his own Invoke Despair here.
To try to get back into it. That would knock out both of the creatures on the other side.
But even if he does, the way that it's sequenced, Simon can just sacrifice the Reflection of Kiki Jiki first as the creature. Then there's no enchantments to sacrifice. Shieldred would still be in play.
Wow, it's cut down.
Oh, and Liliana.
Of the Veil. He actually does get both creatures off the battlefield here.
Is he going to turn around it here at 4 life? Remember, Simon can have all kinds of cards here to just straight up win the game, right? Chandra, take 4.
Yes.
Light up the Night if it's still in the deck.
Another Invoke.
Another Invoke would be great.
Be not quite the win, but pretty close. And we're going to see the blood token is actually preserved.
It's not being sacrificed. Does
that
Simon
means he
just
likes
have
his hand. He may just have another copy of Shieldred in hand as well.
He had 2 cards in hand.
He did. He's peeling out 4 lands. It does look like he has a redundant Shieldred.
Okay.
And he could just be like, here, keep answering these. Because every turn, 2 damage.
2 damage, 2 damage.
Unless you have it on the upkeep, which is a lot to ask of Nathan Steuer at this point.
Right. Big, big turn here for Simon Nielsen.
You can tell he's really taking his time.
Absolutely. I mean, this is going to be... These next 2 or 3 turns will decide whether or not Simon will lock up a seat into the top 8 of this Pro Tour.
And there it is. Shieldred hits the battlefield again.
So dead.
Oh, and Nathan Steuer, he's a little sour about it. He said, you take that long? I'm so dead if you have that.
Removal spell? No removal, you're dead.
Hey, this isn't testing anymore.
Right.
You know, this is the real deal. Simon needs to make sure that he has it exactly played out the way he wants. But I think that is what Simon Nielsen wanted to hear. Steuer is saying, I can't beat that.
And this is tough. If Nathan loses this, his only losses in Standard are to teammates.
These guys are crushing it. And there's a land that Simon had drawn. And that's going to do it. Simon Nielsen secures a top 8. He's explaining what his play was. Normally, he would be thrilled. This is a teammate. He knows that this is a heartbreaker potentially for Steuer, because now Steuer's in the danger zone. That draw could really come back to bite him next round.
Right. And later on, we're going to have the desk breakdown what that situation is going to be like. But again, if X4-1, if 11-4-1 does not top 8, that draw was basically both players just saying, hey, I don't need a match win.
Right.
They both threw away a win.
And there we go. That's the excitement that we want to see from Simon Nielsen. I knew he had it in him. He's really expressive.
Do it away from the table, right?
Yeah, but he was trying to be respectful of his teammate.
Absolutely.
And, and I'm sure Nathan Steuer is happy for Simon as well as a teammate. But he knows that was a really tough loss for Nathan to take. Now, again, going back to that, we did see that Karl Sarap was able to just brute force enough wins to make it in anyway. And Steuer could do the same next round.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's funny is this is kind of eerily reflects what kind of happened at the World Championship, if you think about it, because Steuer looked unstoppable in the Swiss, but then lost his last 2 rounds. Wasn't even sure if he was going to make the top 4.
He did not think he was
devastated.
I mean, remember when he took off his headset and he was just destroyed?
You saw how much it meant to him, but then he managed to squeak in right? He managed to squeak in with on tie breaks. Will that happen again?
That's the question.
Right?
Because he does have another round to play here as well. And even if he looks back and says, okay, maybe that draw wasn't the best idea, he could do what Karl Sarap did and just get to that 12th win anyway.
Yeah.
Oof.
Oh, I know.
That is really close. We've got one more round, or excuse me, one more game or match to bring you here before we call it for the round here. This one's a little different than what we've been seeing. So this is Reid Duke, as you see on the left there, versus Daniel Goetschel. And the difference is, okay, Rakdos Breach versus Rakdos Midrange, similar decks. Look at the records though. Reid has 11 wins. And that means that Reid Duke, your reigning Pro Tour champion, is in a win-in scenario for another top 8 here. Daniel's not. Daniel needs to rattle off both wins. And again, look why. He's got a draw sitting there on his record. And it looks like Daniel's down a card here in game number 3 as we join it.
It is pretty.
But he's on the play.
It is pretty incredible, though, that you're just seeing these same faces just put up these results tournament over. I mean, we're talking about a field of 250 people.
Not a coincidence.
And it's just the same guys,
yeah,
right?
It's the ones that work the hardest. That's who it
is.
is. Team Handshake, they are all business. And Reid Duke always is.
Well, yeah.
He puts in the work. He has. That's been kind of his, what we've known him for his whole career.
Yeah.
Go to combat.
But he is on the draw here against Daniel. And even though he has the cut down, he could find himself pretty far behind here.
The classic turn 2, turn 3.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what the deck is.
Oh, and another cut down. So Reid recognizing that on the draw, the way that you lose is you kind of get run over by that early start. You know that your deck has a slightly better late game, right? With kind of the breach the multiverse and such. So keeping in those cut downs.
Reid Duke had a very tough start to his tournament. 0-2.
Not a bad follow-up.
Slight turnaround.
11-1. I don't think he's lost a match today.
Clutch.
Make blood, sure.
Okay, there's a Blood Tithe Harvester. Announces his trigger, passes the turn back.
Put a counter on this. Think for a second.
Okay, Daniel says, "Well, chapter 2 this." Ooh, it looks like he's going to dig deep here. 2 of Braids hit.
Looking for some action here.
Yeah, he wants something proactive.
Right. Fable.
Cast Graveyard Trespasser.
Graveyard Trespasser.
Call this and get a day token.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Right, that's not.
All right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's a play.
And then I'll play a land tapped.
But that could have been Shieldred or whatever.
Right, but perhaps he did get to rummage, so perhaps he's found some of the other permanents that he needs in his hand here.
Explored. And you have 2 cards in your hand?
Yes. Yeah, 2 cards.
Reid just doing a little double check about the board state.
Right.
You cast this, you play to tap Cliffs.
Yeah, but
got 2 cards in your hand.
Of course, we know that Daniel couldn't have played an extra land, right? Turn 3 Fable, turn 4 Trespasser land.
Reid is thinking on end step here, likely about what to do with that blood token.
Right. Cut down won't kill the Trespasser.
Right.
Does Reid want to find an answer here?
Ooh, that means no lands probably, or at least only one
Or maybe
more.
just too many big cards.
Yeah, Breach the Multiverse, his 7-mana game ender, hits the graveyard off of the blood token.
Okay.
And he's got a Bank Buster, so he's trying to get something rolling. He's going to pass the turn back over and settle in. We are in the grind.
And the thing about just the Rakdos mirror is both players just don't have much in the way of interacting with each other's haymakers, right? They're not playing with counter magic. So this is now the point where Daniel, I mean, he played the Bankbuster here, but he could have easily just gone land to spare you.
Yeah.
And then that's where you just kind of see both players go back and forth, slamming their big cards.
Yeah, I likened our last round to a boxing match, and it really does feel that way watching it. And it is no holds barred. They are not. There's nothing cute here. It's how much mana can I spend? What's the biggest effect I can get at each mana slot for this color pair? Do that.
Just battle cruiser magic.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun, actually. I mean, the beginning
It's
part's
also,
really repetitive, but
right.
then when they have all these different ways to actually win the game. Oh, and there it is.
There it is. It's,
Kaboom. Invoke Despair on the stack for Duke.
Sacrifice this as a creature and then keep this in play.
Yep.
Because it goes in order.
Yeah. Again, just so the way that the way Invoke Despair works is you have to you can sacrifice things based on the order of the text of the card. And the first thing that Invoke Despair says is target player can sacrifice a creature, right? So you just sacrifice your enchantment creature first, then you can still have pressure on the battlefield with that Graveyard Trespasser.
Of course, that does give Duke an extra card, right?
It does, but I think it's also really important in this matchup just to have permanence on the battlefield, because you really don't want to take a lot of damage, because this deck is capable of kind of getting you with that chip damage from a Despair here, a Chandra, cards like that.
Yeah, they jokingly call this Rakdos Burn, the version that Daniel's playing. Yeah, Invoke Despair. Honestly, it's the enchantment clause that really pushes it over the top for its standard play. I mean, it's very powerful regardless, but just the fact that everybody has Fable and you can actually interact with it with a black card.
And it's really odd just because in general, black historically has not had ways to kill enchantments, right?
It's not part
and
of its
this gives you a
identity.
very powerful main deck option that does let you kill those enchantments.
Right. You don't see quite as many Planeswalkers in Standard these days, but that enchantment is really good. And there are Planeswalkers around.
It's a lot of permanence on Daniel's side, but unable to get in an attack here.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting, because Reid just resolved Invoke, drew a couple of cards, and this is where you can snowball, right?
Absolutely.
This is where it's like it's not uncommon to see him just go Invoke again, right? Play a land, Invoke, start getting up to the big stuff. Let's see what he's got, though.
2 mana. Another Bankbuster, maybe? Blood-Tithe Harvester?
Another Bankbuster would be really boring. Ooh, Braid, your Bankbuster. That's more exciting.
I don't think Reid cares about boring, though.
Yeah,
I think he just cares
I'm maximizing for entertainment value here. I'm looking out for the viewers. All right, Reckoner Bankbuster number 2 does, in fact, hit the table for you here, Paul.
So now it's going to be really hard for Daniel to actually be able to get in with removal, right? Because it's like, kill your Harvester, well, crew my Bankbuster. Kill your Bankbuster, well, crew my other Bankbuster.
Yes. He's got an army of Bankbusters ready to block.
Really curious what Daniel's working with in hand here.
Yeah,
at this point, he has to have some of the big cards, right?
He has to. And if he doesn't now, he should very shortly.
5.
This can be an Invoke.
Invoke Despair?
Yes, it
That
is.
is an Invoke Despair.
I'm glad he said that verbally.
You might see a crew.
Did you make your land drop yet this turn?
You think he'd rather just lose one of the Bankbusters?
It is possible.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
Yeah, okay.
You could double crew, right? You crew the Bankbuster, use that Bankbuster to crew the other Bankbuster, then sacrifice the tapped Bankbuster. And you still have a 4/4 in play that can block the Trespasser.
Could he still activate it?
Yes.
That one's sick, though, right?
Oh, sure. It depends on which one he goes with. But it looks like he's just crewed one of them and is just passing and is happy to have the Harvester die here. I imagine you want to remove counters from the 1/2 just to try to create that pilot as quickly as possible.
Right.
And the treasure.
Get the payoff at the end. I'm really curious if Reid has extra breach in his hand. We saw him discard one earlier, and that could have just been because it was too far away from mana and he needed to do stuff. Now it could have been because he had an extra.
Combat? Sure.
It's only a mana off.
This cannot,
Did you hear that from Reid?
What do you say?
Daniel goes, combat? Reid goes, sure.
And he's like, no tax.
Yeah, it's like, come on in. The water's nice and warm. Daniel's kind of talking through what would happen if he does do that.
Sorry, I just asked about 3 cards. Okay. 3 cards. Okay.
Wow, Daniel's very verbal right now.
It reminds me a lot of Benton Madsen from the last Pro Tour.
Yeah, talking through stuff on the board.
Yeah.
Okay, so, trigger both, so I'll make a treasure and try and target Trespasser.
Blood-Tithe Harvester, right?
Or, yeah, sorry,
So I'm at 14, you're at 17?
Yes.
Block?
Block?
Sure. Go do damage?
Yes.
Take 2, disguise.
12.
Hey, I think Reid's okay with that trade.
And I'll pass to you.
Yeah, I didn't even lose his Bankbuster.
But, you know, this was an intentional attack from Daniel, so he's setting something up here. I can't imagine this late in the tournament, Daniel is
just
throwing creatures away. So there is some kind of a setup here.
Oh, here it is. There's land number 7. And that means Italy Primal Conqueror.
Can't counter it. Here we go. What do we get?
Reckoner Bankbuster.
Not the most impressive.
And a go for the throw.
Okay, not bad. That kills something, but you know, certainly that gets you far ahead on cards.
I mean, if this game goes long, Reid has to win with triple Bankbuster, but it doesn't necessarily go long.
But remember, okay, also keep in mind, Reid's down to 12.
Yeah.
I wonder if Daniel is trying to set up potentially some kind of a fireball finish with Chandra, maybe Invoke Despair with the treasure, because remember, with Chandra, you can tick it up twice to give you 2 mana. So if you want Chandra plus Invoke Despair, you only need 9 mana sources to pull off both. And we're looking at what? 7?
Can I see? It's 9 mana to transform?
It's 9 plus a Phyrexian.
If that's helpful.
To be more accurate there, Daniel, to transform Italy.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's fine. I know what the Blight Seal Colossus does. Okay, so
that is what it turns into. It's an 11/11 trample with Indestructible, and it does poison.
Toxic, what, 11 or something?
I'll sacrifice
yeah, it's 11.
Make black,
it
you have 4 non-basics,
poisons you.
Prime Return Razor Lash, get a counter on it. Go to untap.
Oh, you get that many poison counters for how much damage you do.
It's Blightsteel. That is the type of thing that if you tap out, if you leave the window open, that can happen.
Damage. You have 3 cards.
Correct.
Okay. Just yeah, this is probably the best line. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So probably the best line. We'll see what happens.
Well, I wonder if
Yeah, sure.
Invoke.
Try to invoke Despair you. Make it 4 black.
So do you crew and sack Italy if you want to preserve your life total?
Oh.
This is summoning sick. Yep.
I mean, if you crew and sacrifice a Bankbuster, you're gonna take 4 from the Invoke Despair, and then an additional 4 here from the Transmogrant, I believe. It's a lot of damage.
Can you go crew, sacrifice 1, still have a blocker for the Transmogrant?
You can do that, absolutely.
But you're still taking the 4?
Or you're trading the Transmogrant. You're taking the 4, and you're trading Transmogrant for a Bankbuster, and then because Reid has more than 4 non-basics to play, the Transmogrant can just come back.
Right.
Crew. Yeah, crew.
And then
sack that one.
So you lose 4 life, I draw 2 cards.
But Reid is very aware of this life total situation.
Absolutely.
And Daniel is looking to try to burn him out, hence that attack a couple last
And these
turn.
Bankbusters, I mean,
You're at 8 life.
they're not doing much here, right?
No.
Just getting in the way. So, I mean, Daniel's certainly going to attack here. But remember, if Daniel doesn't have lethal, you have to be mindful of the flip on the Italy, but that is 9 mana.
Yeah, he needs 2 extra mana.
So he cannot do that next turn.
Nope.
Oof, this is close.
I'll swing for 4.
But this is a pretty safe attack here. Daniel at 17.
Yeah, but you know, even with the crew dance there from Reid. Go ahead.
Yeah, and with the swamp now, you can get the Transmogrant back. Reid is at 8.
Pass to you.
Oh, very dicey here for Reid.
He passes back to Reid Duke.
8 to 17, right?
Again, life totals.
He is at 7. Does he have more 7 drops?
When I make a copy, it doesn't get. If this had a counter on it and I made a copy, would it be a 3/1 or would it copy? It doesn't copy the counter, right?
Exactly, it would be a 3/1.
Okay, thank you. Just making sure.
Good shortcut for that type of thing is that it'll copy whatever's in the sleeve.
Right.
Draw a card, make a treasure and a pilot.
Yep.
Okay, pilot, treasure, card. That does set up Italy next turn.
It does.
The land drop, but
can Reid survive?
Doesn't really
the
feel
next
like
turn.
what's happening here, you know?
Remember, and also, and if you want to flip it and not take damage, that's 10 mana. If you want to sack the treasure for green.
True. If he gets down to 6.
Right.
This is huge. Reid needs something pretty impressive here, and board affecting like sooner than later.
And there's so many things Daniel could have here too, right, to close things out.
Absolutely.
And there is a reflection of Kiki Chiki also in play.
Right.
What can Reid do here?
He does hit that land drop.
Access to 7.
Reid's playing for a top 8 slot.
Does he have a breach?
Daniel isn't. Not yet, at least.
Daniel needs to go back-to-back.
He needs to win. He needs to beat Reid this game and then win the last round to get that 12th win. This looks like a very difficult spot for Reid, who looks like he's got about 4 cards in hand. Oh, and he's attacking.
In.
So I keep 4 cards?
This is gutsy stuff from Reid Duke.
Oh, 4 is correct? Yeah, bank plus okay. I'm at 17 life, so if I take that, I would go to 10. What's...
I like Daniel.
Yeah.
Talking it all through.
5, 6. Chandra copy. And
thinking through all the options.
Play the land.
He has played a land, yes, Daniel.
Let's do some quick math. Play Chandra.
So can't play Chandra and invoke.
2, 4, 6. Yeah, it's fine. No, go to damage.
Yep. You're 10.
Yep.
All right, what does Reid have up his sleeve here?
Yeah, that's the question.
Go ahead.
Whoa, he tapped 2 lands and then just said go. Oh, he says, well, you're going to try to make a copy anyway, so I've got go for the throat to kill the reflection.
What else does he have? Does he have more removal? Remember, go for the throat does not work on the transmogrants.
That's right.
But we do have a chump blocker. There's a pilot there in that corner here.
Ooh, there's duress. Oh, and you can see what Reid was deciding. He has another Atali, another go for the throat, and a soul transfer, which is a sorcery, right? Or is it an
It is a sorcery.
Oh. Wait, sorry, it's a duress. Okay.
Yeah, you can't duress Atali.
I wasn't going to take it. That's the destroy non-artifact creature.
Might just take the soul transfer here because the go for the throat has no targets, right?
Right.
Take soul transfer.
I mean, the transmogrante's not lethal.
It is not.
But boy, is it nerve-wracking.
What else does Daniel have here? That's a lot of mana that he picked up.
Is it going to be an invoke?
Shieldred? No, Shieldred gets go for the throated, right?
Yes.
Invoke.
He does have invoke. Daniel Goetschel has it all.
Oh, man. Has to sack the Atali or he dies.
Right.
And I draw 2.
So Reid's down to 4 life here. If Daniel finds a cheap removal spell for the pilot, that's it, right?
Go for the throat! He's got go for the throat for the pilot and exactly 4 power left to attack for lethal.
Good games.
Oh, and it's good game, says Reid Duke. But he is going to be heartbroken there because he put himself in a position to win and make it into the top 8, and he missed. Now, that means both of them have chances next round to get that 12th victory, but goodness sakes.
We've got a lot of winning-ins next round.
Yeah.
It's going to be really exciting.
Definitely. We felt like we had a lot this round, but next round is going to be the fire. Like, seriously, it is going to get interesting. A lot of the draws out in the field that we mentioned before will affect who and how they get into the top 8 as well. And I think the best thing you can hope for at this point, if you're still in the tournament, is just to have the fate in your own hands, right? When you can see that number 12, 1 win away, and say, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to try to get there.
Yeah, again, really curious to see how the dust settles, but at least at the end of this round, we have 3 players locked into the top 8, all members of Team Handshake. GG.
Incredible. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be at the news desk setting you up for the last round here on Saturday from the PT. Don't go anywhere.